Playing games and interacting with preschoolers could help improve the mental well-being and the mood of people in retirement homes. Stellenbosch University researchers say that people living in semi-independent and frail care units may experience the loss of the supportive role provided by their communities. It's therefore, of course, very important to explore how interactions with the youngsters could improve their situation. It's fascinating research. I'm joined by one of the researchers, Dr. Elizabeth Earl, making time for me this morning. Hello, Dr. Earl. Good to have you with us from down in Stellenbosch. Why do this research? What was the thinking behind this?
So it all started, during my undergrad. I was interested in looking at the mental health of older adults. As we all know, grandparents are so important growing up, and I think this was paying tribute to that, to look at how we can improve the well-being of our older adults, especially in our population that is getting older and older.
And so when we talk about the youngsters, and I mentioned preschoolers, give me a sense of the ages that we're talking about. What's the kind of age range involved here?
So the preschool ranged from about age 5 to about age 7. So it was just that before starting school.
How are you able to test this? So what's the sort of analogy that you're using here? What's the sort of process involved in trying to prove this and take this research forward?
So unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of time to do a longitudinal study, but we started with looking at a questionnaire assessing the baseline mental health of our participants, doing screening scores for depression and anxiety, and then this was followed by interviews with our participants about how they have experienced how they've experienced the interactions, and how they feel it's influenced their time at the retirement home. We then used a thematic analysis to look through these interviews and identify the main themes that came about.
It's very, very clever. So obviously the kids would have had some great fun while they were doing this as well. How did you, I feel like I'm going to phrase this terribly, but let me give it a go anyway. How did you choose the children, the preschoolers, that would be used as part of this research? Was there a specific criteria involved?
So the actual retirement home at which we did the study was connected to a preschool. So it had a preschool on site. They shared a gate. And these interactions were actually already arranged. The children were coming weekly, bi-weekly to visit the older adults.
So what do you now do with this research? Obviously, this was a small-scale sample as well. I'm sure you'd like to obviously have much larger scales to work on as well. But what's the hope now going forward? Where do you take this next?
This has formed a platform on which we can build. I think having a starting point for this sort of research is so important. From here, we could potentially look at larger scale studies and also look at different aspects within this field, how it influenced the children, and a more in-depth research can be done from this point.
And so when you look back at the results, Doctor, as I say goodbye to you, as you look back at the results, how are you able to determine a positive influence? I ask the question only because I have an elderly family member living in a retirement estate, and anything new or different for them, they generally enjoy. How do we know that having them interacting with preschoolers long term will, in general, improve their mental health? It's not just something new and exciting for now.
So, of course, ideally, more studies looking into that would be great. But from our findings, it showed that having these regular interactions developed a stronger bond with the children. They got to know the children very well. They had these relationships that they looked forward to. They knew each other by name, and all of those factors indicated to us that with this regular interaction, they develop a lot more meaning through these interactions, and that could possibly improve their well-being.
Anything that can improve the well-being, I think it's well worth looking into indeed. Doctor, all the best with the research. Thanks for taking time to speak to me this morning. Very, very clever. Dr. Elizabeth Earl from the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences at Stellenbosch University. Youngsters creating some happiness and proven happiness for those who are in the slightly older generation, often living in retirement.